1% on this Wednesday, the 12th day of March. You might recall last month the Westland Hallmark Company issued the largest meat recall in U.S. history. 143 million pounds of beef recalled after undercover video showed employees of that plant abusing animals and forcing sick animals into the slaughterhouse. Well, today on Capitol Hill, a congressional panel took on the big issue of food safety. Is our system working? Joining me now, Democratic Congresswoman DeGette of Colorado. She's at today's hearing. Congresswoman, good of you to join us. First of all, what was your overall impression about what you heard today, especially from the head of the company?
Well, I thought that the testimony we heard today only pointed out the urgent need for legislation, because the president of the company knew that they had had violations even in the year 2005, yet they did very little to try to remedy that situation. And he seemed frankly pretty unconcerned about, except for the financial impact to his company, about the tainted and downed cattle that got into this nation's food supply and caused the largest recall ever of meat in this country.
He claimed he didn't know anything about it until he suddenly saw that video, which was widely available on the internet for a considerable period of time. Do you believe him?
Well, he should have known about it because he was given it by the USDA, but yet he did not do anything to bring the meat back off of the market for 10 days after he knew about the video, until the USDA basically told him to do a voluntary recall of the beef, which points out to me the need both for a mandatory recall authority for the FDA and USDA, but also for the ability of people who are the end receivers of that beef, whether it be the consumer that buys it from the grocery store or school districts, to be able to trace where that beef came back to the source.
Even if you did give those agencies the mandatory recall power that you're talking about, are there enough inspectors out there to really take advantage of those new powers?
Well, the other thing we need to do with both of these agencies is we need to reform the agencies, and we need to beef up their budgets so that they can have more inspectors. That's a similar thing that we just did for the Consumer Product Safety Commission, because the agencies are underfunded. But in truth, if we have mandatory recall authority, I actually think it might make manufacturers and producers much more sensitive about safety and about the quality of their product, because they know that it could be recalled. So you might actually avoid some of the problems that we're seeing.
Because they'd be worried about getting caught. But right now, I guess the question then becomes, when you or I or the rest of our fellow Americans go to the supermarket or the butcher or whoever we buy our beef and other products from, do we have any reason right now to be confident that what we're getting is safe?
Well, this is the thing I'm concerned about. When I go to the supermarket and buy a package of ground beef, I don't know which lots that ground beef came from, and so we don't really know if you have a situation like this one. Some of the lots contain down cattle, if that ground beef is in our packages, which is why a lot of my constituents are quite concerned about that. Traceability would be easy to do. Even the witness today admitted that it would be easy to do, and some of the so-called natural companies do traceability, so they know. You could say, okay, these lots of hamburger came from these particular problems, and we're going to pull them from the shelves.
Congresswoman, only about 35 seconds left here. Is this company emblematic of an isolated incident, or are there a lot of other cases out there like this waiting to be discovered?
We've had a lot of cases of beef recalls in the last 4 or 5 years. Some of us in Congress have gotten quite concerned and sponsored legislation. We've also had recalls of other food like peanut butter and spinach and even dog food that we feed our pets. It's just really clear that the food supply and inspections are broken, and that it's really incumbent on Congress to do something. That's why the Energy and Commerce Committee is putting together legislation to beef up mandatory recall and inspections and resources for the FDA and the USDA.
Well, we have to leave it there. We appreciate your time and your thoughts. Thanks very much.
Great to be with you. Thanks.
This is Congresswoman DeGette joining us. We'll pause right now, take a break. Oil closing near 100.